What's up, SVSers? We are back finally for another SVS virtual audiophile happy hour. I believe this is the longest we've gone in between audiophile happy hours. And in fact, it's our first happy hour of 2021. So I know everyone here is super excited to get things started. Of course, we have President of SVS, Gary Yakubian. Welcome, Gary. We have Larry Magoo, the Larry, who is our National Training Manager. Welcome, Larry.
Howdy,
and our
everybody.
Special guest, who is so special that he's been here, I think, 8 times now. Our legendary Director of Customer Service, that is Ed Mullen. And he's
our
going
not
to be
so special guest.
Yeah, that's right. A wealth of information tonight for us talking about some home theater setup blunders. But before we get into the format and some of the fun for tonight, I know, Gary, you always like to lead us in with a couple words. So I will turn it over to you and let's get people excited tonight.
So I'm going to be Debbie Downer and apologize to everybody because we've been off the air for 6 weeks. And here's our excuse. My whole family got COVID, including me. And then Nick's whole family got COVID, including him. And Nick he was after me. He's just on the tail end of it now, but felt good enough to do this. And listen, you don't want to get this thing. We all had manageable symptoms. Would you agree, Nick?
Oh, totally. Yeah, it was certainly, manageable, but not fun.
Even with manageable symptoms, you don't want to get this thing. So it feels like we're getting to the end of the line here with the vaccines. And I just recommend, let's get to the end of this thing and be stronger on the other side. But it's really great to be with everybody. And we're looking forward. This is a great happy hour, a bunch of topics where we're going to talk about, basically ways to have your home theater be the best it can be. Doesn't cost anything. Just the tips and tricks for setting up your home theater, and we're calling it blunders. Why are we saying that?
Well, I feel like we're sort of addressing a lot of mistakes that people make, whereas a lot of times we're talking about tweaks and optimizations. Today, it's like these are common things that people may not realize they're doing wrong. So I guess there's a slight twist on the normal tips and tricks that we like to offer people.
Blunders we recommend you
avoid.
Do.
Yeah.
No, avoid.
We'll geek out tonight. Yeah, we'll figure out some areas that we've stumbled and fix them.
That is right. And I know we've all come across a lot of these, Ed, mostly. But before we get into a lot of that stuff and what we've been tuning into, for anyone who might be joining us for the very first time, the way we do things is we'll do random giveaways throughout the evening. My man Vince is working behind the scenes. He will choose people at random. If you leave a comment, you're eligible. That's it. And we'll announce you live on there.
But you only need to comment. You can comment as many times as you feel like you want to, but as soon as you comment once, you've got your full entry into the giveaways.
Correct. And so just listen for your name, and we'll mention whether you're joining from Facebook or YouTube, and that's about it. But we have 4 giveaways this evening, and I know Larry has committed them to memory, so I'm going to spin it over to you, Larry. What are the fine people eligible to win tonight?
Well, I don't know if they're necessarily committed to memory, but I do have them here in front of me. So
okay,
we do have the 4 giveaways, like you said. We are going to start the evening with a pair of Prime Elevation height effect speakers. So somebody's going to walk home with those. We've got a pair of our Prime wireless powered bookshelf speakers that we are also going to be giving away. A PB1000 10-inch ported subwoofer. Someone's going to get that as well. And then we're going to end the night with a pair of Prime bookshelves. So I may have those out of order, but those are the 4 giveaways we're doing this evening.
Well, I mean, can I ruin everything and throw a wrench in the works like I always do? So here's my idea. We've been gone 6 weeks. We haven't done any giveaways. So I say we do one more giveaway. Since in honor of the fact that Nick somehow finagled SVS on Let's Make a Deal, we're actually on Let's Make a Deal. How about we do the Let's Make a Deal system as a 5th giveaway, and that is Prime wireless sound base and a pair of our awesome Prime Pinnacle floor standing loudspeakers. And we do that. Let that be our final giveaway.
That's a big
Goodness gracious. All right.
5 giveaways.
I want that
Vince,
one.
you got to be, I know, seriously, Vince, I hope you're paying attention there. So we're doing 5 giveaways. So we will end the night with that one, correct, Gary?
Is Vince drinking cocktails too, or just the talent on the show here?
I think he's got 40 ounces tonight.
Throw my name in the hat.
I'm just doing water.
Very exciting. Well, there you go, folks. So that was completely unexpected, but we'll talk a teeny bit more about Let's Make a Deal here as we get forward. But before we do that, we always, if you're a first timer, like to talk about what we've been tuning into, and it's been quite a while. And because Ed is our special guest, I'd like to go to you first. Ed, any recommendations for binge watching movies, new things that you've checked out over the past couple weeks here that might be a good recommendation?
Well, the season 3 of The Expanse is out. I think it's season 3. It's the latest season of The Expanse. That's on Amazon Prime. It's sci-fi. It's fantastic. I'm really looking forward. I haven't seen it yet, but when we do, we're going to binge it. Yellowstone's in the queue, and we did watch season 3 of Cobra Kai, and found that enjoyable too. I over there. He doesn't like it. I thought it was pretty good.
Very cool. Larry, what have you been tuning into?
Long-termer, though. There's like a bazillion episodes, so
yeah,
crawl through that.
I've actually watched quite a bit. Last time we were talking about how I didn't get to watch Tenet because I had the ear infection. I finally got into that, and it's so weird, but so good if you're into Christopher Nolan. Everything that's been coming out new on HBO Max, Wonder Woman 84, watch that. I'll leave my.
What did you think of Wonder Woman 84? I'm just wondering. I know you like every superhero movie. Was this one finally one that was too stupid even for?
Oh, it's so bad. My wife was sitting next to me as I was watching it, and she's trying to figure out why I was laughing so much.
It's actually a movie that's dumber than Cobra Kai, which is really saying something.
It made me kind of hesitant to be curious about what's coming from HBO Max going forward. Why are they dumping all these movies on HBO Max? But I watched the Little Things this weekend as well, and
is that good?
It didn't give me much more hope, but so the actors were great. Then of course Cobra Kai, like Ed said, watching a lot of Mavericks basketball, even though they've kind of been stinking, and I'm ready for the Super Bowl this weekend.
Gary, what have you been tuning into?
Okay, so I have to just, I'm ashamed to say that I did binge Bridgerton, and I have lots of complaints about it, but the fact is I work out every morning, and I watched 2 episodes of Bridgerton 4 days in a row, so watched them all watched the whole thing in 4 days, so it's a little weird and vapid, but I did enjoy it, I have to admit, and the sound of Bridgerton is really, really good. It's Dolby Atmos. But here's my dark horse, and I did actually see it in the comments, which reminded me. There is a French, have you heard of this one, Larry? French Netflix show called Lupin, which is like the #2 Netflix show in the world, but not necessarily here in the US, but it's really, really good. I'm like, wow, this is great. It's really well done. It's about a French kind of burglar kind of dude or robber, but it's I just thought it was really clever. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. I'm going to recommend that one. But my favorite thing for me was I got my record player. I have a Linn record player, really good record player, and I got it totally reconditioned. It got a new motor and power supply. It sounds like God. So I've been listening to a lot of vinyl.
Vinyl, okay. Well, I know you showed off some of your new collection on our last time we did the happy hour, so I'm glad.
I feel like buying more. It was fun.
Well, myself, I have a couple recommendations. I checked out a movie on Netflix, and I like sort of sci-fi futuristic. It's called Outside the Wire with Anthony Mackie. It's about sort of robot soldiers pairing up with human soldiers, and it's just one of those that I needed at the end of a long day, and it totally took me away. There's some good bass, low frequency effects in there as well, so I highly recommend that. I have one of my favorite hip-hop artists, a man by the name of Pharoah Monch. He recently released a new album. He's actually an Ultra Bookshelf speaker owner, which I liked him before then, but I liked him even more when I found that out. He has a new album that dropped, sort of like a metaphysical rap hip-hop album that I would highly recommend if you're into that genre. And then I think Gary teased this earlier, but we will be appearing on Let's Make a Deal. The clip will be available tomorrow. It aired today at various times throughout the country, but the clip will be available online. We'll post it up there. I have no idea what it's going to be like, but I'm super excited. I love that show, and I love game shows in general. So it's not one that I normally bring up here, but it's exciting for that to come to full fruition there. So
Nick, they want to know what everybody's drinking. I'm getting comments here.
Yes. Well, I will go to you first, Larry, although yours isn't generally the most exciting.
Dude, I'm just drinking water, man. I'm boring. It's either that or a cherry Coke, but I did not get a chance to run off Sonic.
It's happy hour.
But
That's
I do
right.
have
Well,
my
that's good.
Cobra Kai cup. This is my golf and stuff cup. So,
Harry, what about you? Anything interesting in your glass tonight?
You know, I don't trust myself to drink in the show. So, but I will say I've got Lafroyag single malt that was recommended by Smith Freeman, our #1 designer and engineer. So I'm kind of looking forward to having a Scotch, but after the show. Just don't want to be slurring my words and disappointing everyone in the middle of the show.
Maybe not disappointing, but yeah, I think the coherence will be appreciated.
I'll be more entertaining
towards the end of the hour. And Ed, I know you had a special little glass you're drinking from there. What's in that special little glass? And tell us about it.
It's a little European, pewter shot glass with some hunting scenes on it. It's been in the family for a long time. I had Juniper Lovers Unite. I've got Monkey 47 gin, which I like to drink in the wintertime along with vodka. Usually I am drinking some form of whiskey, but
you mix gin and vodka?
No, I'm saying in the wintertime I'll drink gin and vodka. But I got some gin tonight. Monkey 47 gin.
Very nice. I have I was going to bust out my Whistle Pig, which is like my highest top shelf bourbon that I have. But at the last second, I got a craving for rum, and I had a Mai Tai here, my own version of a Mai Tai, using
Nick,
Brugal
do you have your
rum.
taste? Can you taste right now?
I can taste. I can finally taste, although drinking alcohol numbs my taste right back to close to where it was before. But I like a good Mai Tai once in a while. Feeling the fruit cocktail this evening. So before we get into some of our blunders, I did want to mention it's a big event this weekend. It's the biggest football game. I think I'm allowed to say Super Bowl. I know we're not allowed to write it in marketing.
You're not advertising anything.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so any thoughts from the crew here about the Super Bowl? Larry, I'll start with you. Anything you want to say there as we head into this weekend?
Well, it should be a ton of fun. I'm excited to do a lot of cooking on Sunday. That's for sure. I got my smoker and meats and stuff ready to go. But I can't decide on a game. I think it's going to be the Chiefs. I think it'd be fun to see Tampa Bay win it in Tampa Bay. But I'm also really excited for the halftime show, and I want to see the Weeknd do something on the pirate ship out there.
Very cool. Ed, will you be tuning in? And what are your thoughts here? I know you got strong feelings.
I'm rooting against the Chiefs because they beat the Bills. I thought the Bills were going to make a great run this year, and they did. And I think it's pretty cool that Brady's gone back to the Super Bowl for 10 times now. So I'm kind of rooting for him just as the greatest of all time.
And Gary, what do people need to know about the audio as far as the Super Bowl goes?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
I thought you would.
Everybody should know that the Super Bowl is broadcast in full Dolby Digital 5.1. So I know when you're distracted by all kinds of hors d'oeuvres and food and stuff like that, and beer, of course, you might not set up the home theater properly. You want to set up the home theater so that your cable box or your satellite box is outputting 5.1. Go into the settings and make sure it's outputting that, and then obviously make sure your receiver is set for that. It's the basic Dolby Digital, but it actually sounds. I've always found the Super Bowl to be one of the better sounding things you can watch on broadcast TV. And I'm also excited. I'm not that big of a football fan because I live in Washington, where we have what we have to now call the Washington football team. They're terrible and heartbreaking. But this is such a good Super Bowl with the two teams that we're really looking forward to it. I do think sentimentally to see Brady win another Super Bowl with a new team is really, it's amazing that he even got there, but it'll be fun to see if he can take it all the way.
And I think, as we were saying earlier, it does bring that feeling of normalcy. Like, I know it's not going to be a packed house, but I love the fact that they're bringing all those vaccinated, for frontline workers, letting them watch the Super Bowl. And it just makes you feel like, oh, things are somewhat back to normal. It's the Super Bowl. You get the ads, you get the halftime show. You got great food on the smoker, as you guys are talking about. It's just one of those things that, gives us a sense that, hey, can enjoy life to the fullest, and I'm not going to the Super Bowl anytime soon, so I'll be enjoying it the same way I would anyways. So super
I agree.
excited.
It'll be fun to feel a little bit normal. Now that you, Nick, now that your family and my family have both gotten rid of COVID, we can actually, in limited ways, we can visit with people in ways that we haven't been able to for 10 months. So could be worse.
Totally. And I'm not sure on my pick, but I'm gonna say the Chiefs are gonna win in a squeaker, but the Bucks are gonna cover. So for you betting folks out there, I think it's gonna be a super
It's a
tight game.
3-point window. That's
I know
very.
it's a tight.
don't
I think it's
condone it.
You'll
was
certainly
3.5.
lose that bet. I guarantee. I'll bet you on that one right now if you want to.
I'll
I'll bet you one of the 5 prizes.
Deal. Let's do it. Sorry, those are your prizes, folks. And that's actually a great segue. So before we get into talking about some of our home theater setup tips, we do have a giveaway. And our first giveaway of the evening is our most popular speaker that SVS makes, and that is our SVS Prime Elevation. It's a phenomenal Dolby Atmos height effect speaker, but also a surround speaker, and really serviceable in a number of different ways. And our winner of the first giveaway of the evening, Keith Beverly Jr. from Facebook. You are now the owner of a pair of
Keith.
Prime Elevation.
Okay.
Look out for a note from our
I'm
buddy,
seeing a lot of
Vince
questions
there.
about Dolby Atmos, so maybe a quick primer on Prime Elevation and how they work as height effect speakers. Maybe our special guest. What's your name again, sir?
It's
Ed
right
Mullen.
here at the bottom.
And actually, one of our first topics will delve into that. So if we can wait just a minute
All right,
or two,
I'm sorry.
one of the
I
first
apologize.
questions
I
will
jumped
address
the
that, and I'll throw that one to Ed. But before we do that, I wanted to sort of intro. We've kind of broken this up into some different segments. The first segment of home theater blunders is choosing the right speakers, subwoofers, products for your system. So all of these topics will sort of play into that. And Gary, I'm going to throw this one to you before we hit back on that Atmos topic. And I think one of the most important things that should not be overlooked is the content of which you're using to choose your products, and whether that should be familiar or new, or what can you tell people in terms of a blunder that they might have when choosing products based on the content and what they should do in terms of listening for.
Well, I think all 4 of us actually could speak to that, but I'm more than happy to kick it off. I think that one mistake people make when they're trying to evaluate audio products is they pick this sort of what I call audiophile recordings, something that might be very well recorded or interestingly recorded or flamboyantly recorded is usually what it is, but something you wouldn't listen to in your normal spare time. And so you may not be familiar with it in the way that you would with your favorite music. So my advice would be make yourself a list, and you don't want the list to be too long, by the way, because your hearing can get confused by too many inputs. Even when Smith and Jack and Mitch and I are evaluating speakers together and collaborating, we're really used to this. I think we're good at listening to speakers and making critical judgments. When you throw too many choices of content at the same time, your hearing gets confused. But I would say if you have a list of 10 favorite recordings that you would listen to in your spare time, you want to make sure that you have something with acoustic string bass or cello. You want to have something with female voice, male voice. You want to have piano. You want to have, obviously, the kinds of music you like, if it's hip hop, rock, or whatever. You want to have some of that stuff that you would listen to if you just were choosing something that gives you pleasure, something that you know instinctively how it's supposed to sound and how it makes you feel. And then play that with your new piece of audio gear and listen. Even myself with a turntable that's been refurbed 4 times now, 20-year-old Linn LP12 turntable, which is a classic, even with just the change of a power supply and motor, I heard differences in recordings. The soundstage became very rock solid all of a sudden, and I just heard things, but I would not have noticed it if this weren't recordings I was super familiar with. I knew what they were supposed to sound like. So that would be my advice. Is that what you were looking for, Nick?
Yeah, I think you hit every point. And part of it is there's this sort of notion that there's universal songs that everyone should use to test speakers. And I think what you're saying is that's not necessarily true.
I actually would say the opposite. I would say if you have something that gives you goosebumps and you play it on your new audio gear, your new speakers, whatever, and it's not giving you those goosebumps, it's not doing what makes you feel connected to the music, something's wrong. You can play around with your placement and other things, but in the end of the day, if you can't get to that goosebump place, it's probably not the product for you.
Well, I think part of it's also if you happen to be in a retail environment, if you don't listen to jazz, don't let the sales guy play jazz for you.
Well, that's so true, Larry. And people want to sound sophisticated when they're talking to a person who does the demo. So they're going to say, "Oh, I listen to classical and jazz," when the truth is they never do. Don't do that. Don't do it.
Honesty benefits you in that case.
Yeah.
Sure.
Take your phone in, or if you happen to still be somebody that owns CDs, everybody's got the ability to play it in a retail store. Take what you listen to, and if you don't like the way it sounds, then that may not be the right product for you.
Right.
Totally
Great
agree.
advice. So the next topic I wanted to hit on, this is actually more, I guess I would call it more of an opinion, but it's an opinion that all of us share. And Ed, I'm going to kick this one to you. And the blunder, or the thing that I think some people have a tendency to do, is if you have a 5.1 or you're considering an upgrade from a 5.1, it's whether you should go from 5.1 to 7.1 or 5.1.2. And this incorporates that Dolby Atmos theme that we were just bringing up here. And Ed, what would you say in terms of that decision-making process?
I know you think everyone knows, Nick.
I'll frame it up.
Maybe we better say what we mean by 7.1 and 5.1.2.
Yep. So 7.1 would be the addition of rear surrounds. And
so instead of side surrounds only, you would have side surrounds and rear surrounds, Ed?
Yep. Side surrounds and rear surrounds, which was very common, 10 years ago.
That's right.
And 5.1.2 would be side surrounds and then 2 overhead height effect speakers.
So no back surrounds.
Correct.
Only side surrounds. And by the way, side surrounds can be behind you. Isn't that right, Ed?
Yeah, you can place them slightly behind you in a 5. In fact, that's what Dolby recommends in a 5.1.2.
So when we're saying side surrounds, we don't necessarily mean they're exactly to the side. We just mean you're using that side surround default surround channel. Is that correct?
That's the primary surround channel.
And now 5.1.2 is the side surround channel, and then what?
2 overhead height effect speakers.
Okay. And what's the 0.1? I forgot.
It's the LFE channel. It's 0.1. People call it
what's LFE? I forgot.
Low frequency effects.
Yeah.
The subwoofer. Ed.
Yeah. I think we need to have Gary go through some classes if he's forgetting all this stuff.
No. Ed just thinks everybody knows what he knows.
It's actually.
So let's get down to it. What are you gaining as opposed comparing the rear channel surround effects versus height effects? Like what's the difference there in terms of your actual experience?
If I had my druthers, it's 5.1.2 all the way over 7.1. It's more immersive. You get the overhead height effects. If your AV processor is newer, it'll process Atmos and DTSX. So you'll be able to reap those benefits. I would only go with a 7.1 if it was an older processor that didn't, have Atmos.
No, that's a good point. If it doesn't do it, then you wouldn't want to do that. Right. And I totally agree with you, Ed. And just to say, hey, the commenters are making fun of me. I didn't really forget. I was just cueing Ed.
He was just drawing it out of me.
Keith is harassing me. So what I was going to say is when you go from 5.1 to 5.1.2, it goes from everything existing on the same horizontal plane to a literally 3D experience because you have that height effect. And it goes from, I guess, what I would call old-fashioned digital surround sound, still great sounding, but to this new concept or newest concept of surround sound, which is object-based surround sound, where there's constant calculation between all the speakers in the home theater to make things seem as though they're coming from specific points in space in the room. It's really much more convincing. That said, part of what you're really saying, Ed, is it's a journey from 5.1 to 5.1.2 that adds the height effects. And then maybe you add those back surround speakers and have 7.1.2, and maybe you even add a second pair of height effects, but it's a journey. You could do that, according to your schedule.
So I saw a question fly by.
If you were going to pick, do the overheads.
Yeah, and sure. I saw a question fly by here, and Larry, I think this is a good one, to quickly address. There's really no rules when it comes to elevation speakers. Is that fair to say?
Well, for height effects, you can really do anything. It's more of how you're going to, like he's asking here, bookshelf speakers on the ceiling. If you're comfortable with having a 10 or 12 pound speaker up above your head on a some sort of bracket, then yeah, but that's where the elevation comes into play. You can see I knocked down a few more albums. If I
that's
can't
a great
point,
can you aim it at that?
Was that Gary?
That's a great, that is what, when Smith and I, it was late at night one night, and we were just kind of free associating possibilities. And this was Smith's concept of, go ahead, back up to that, Larry, just for a second. What if, where Larry has it is all the way up on the side wall. It's a wedge-shaped front baffle, so it can aim down at you. And the way Larry has it, it's really easy to install. So one of the knocks on wall or on ceiling speakers, they're difficult to install. With the way Larry did it, all he really needs to do is use the supplied template that comes in the box, show where the screw holes go.
Look what I have right here.
There you go. And then basically he installs that small bracket, and the speakers snap onto the bracket and aim down at you. So it's a really easy way to have a direct radiating surround sound speaker above you, as opposed to something like an in-ceiling speaker, which doesn't sound nearly as good. Or the worst thing we don't like, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, we don't like this idea of a ceiling bounce, where the speaker is sitting on top of another speaker and aiming up at the ceiling and supposedly going to bounce back down to your ears. I'm going to say, for the record, it doesn't work very well, and it doesn't reliable.
Well, I feel like we could do a whole episode on Dolby Atmos, and we may just have to get around to that because I'm seeing the questions fly fast and furious. But for the sake of music
on it,
we need to do a giveaway. We're going to run out of time for these 5 giveways. Now that I
barely scratching the surface on our topics here too. So if you guys are ready for another giveaway,
guys, so.
We are ready for another giveaway. And our next giveaway is going to be our Prime Wireless powered speaker system, a pair of powered bookshelf speakers with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, very high powered DAC, great listening experience, super convenient. And our winner is coming from YouTube. Daryl Austin from YouTube, you are the winner of a new pair of Prime Wireless.
Yay, Daryl.
Awesome.
And please, Daryl, if you can, reach out to us. It's sometimes tough to get contact info from YouTube. So if you can drop us a note, we'll take care of you, and Vince will get everything shipped out here within the next week. So the last thing I wanted to bring up as far as choosing products for your system, this is one of those old audiophile sort of topics that really spurs a lot of debate. And I'm going to kick this one to you, Larry, but basically it's skimping on the cables and accessories. I think there's you can go to a certain limit, but what can you tell people in terms of advice on choosing your cables and accessories?
Well, I think there is a lot of misconception out there in this space. There's the extremely over-the-top, way expensive, $10,000 speaker wire and power cords. And yeah, if you have $500,000 equipment, maybe some of that stuff makes sense. But I've always been kind of a middle of the road guy on my accessories. I buy quality stuff. The SoundPath wire is a phenomenal example of a product that is amazing at a great price. But you don't have to go out and spend more on your gear or on your accessories than you do on your actual equipment. So a decent quality speaker wire, 16 gauge, it's insulated. Shielded cabling for your video and audio lines, things like that. You don't have to really go nuts.
So what I'm hearing, because we don't have to pitch SVS, although it's always, I have kids going to college, so there is something to be said for that. But the really truth is, Larry, what you're saying is you don't need to get the lowest end Amazon Basics, but you also don't need to get some super expensive. And I'm sorry, I'm not cutting on Amazon Basics. They actually do a pretty good job for those low prices. But you also don't need to get some crazy expensive, I won't name, you guys know the brands, anyone on our show. Instead, something that meets these important standards of quality that are, as far as signal transfer and obviously not degrading, not breaking. I think you can be very happy. And we don't in any way with our accessories live in a world of smoke and mirrors. We try to really focus on true benefits, but this is not even about SVS. Just try to make sure you meet those requirements, and it'll benefit the sound of your system.
Yep, I think that's great advice. And that actually segues nicely to our next segment that we're sort of talking about here with home theater blenders, and that's basically system setup. And one of the things that I know there's a tried and true old saying within the AV space when it comes to
Someone's asking if Ed is sleeping, Nick.
Ed, you're not sleeping, are you? I'm kicking one to you, so you better be alert here. This one's coming in hot at you. There's an old saying, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Ed, as far as this goes. But when you're getting your speaker wire ready to install as part of your system, what is the old saying, and so you don't screw it up and waste a bunch of wire?
Measure twice and cut once. I mean, that we use that all the time in our workshop when my son and I are fabricating things. It's you waste material and you got to redo it. So measure twice, cut once.
Yep. And I know, Larry, we've been in showrooms before where you're running, 50, 60 feet. And that is not a good feeling when you're, about to set the system up and you got about a 6-inch gap.
And I always leave a couple extra feet on my speaker wire, because you might move something, or when you change out something a few years from now, that wire is kind of oxidized and got nasty on the tips on some of it. So just snip it off and make a clean connection on the end too.
Same thing with subwoofer cables. I can't tell you how many times people have come back to me and said, I thought I knew how long it was, but I didn't take into account the horizontal run behind the receiver, then the drop, then over to the sub, then back up to the amplifier. And next thing you know, you needed another 2 or 3 feet. So it always pays to get a little bit more cable than you need, and it will not hurt the signal quality at all.
I will say this, and this will come also across a little bit of self-serving, and I'm going to try to just say it this way. Look, if you're not 100% sure of the length or what you need, make sure the place you get it from has a return policy so you can bring it back. I mean, that's I think not everyone does. I can't imagine in this day and age that some people
always
don't have return policies, but some don't.
Yeah, I think there's 3 great tips there for as far as it goes with setting up your speaker cables and wires. So good stuff to go by there. And while we're on the topic, I think another very common mistake people make, and Ed, this one's for you, mistaking the rear channel surrounds with the side surrounds in a 5.1. What's the difference between the two, and what happens if you mess that up?
We kind of covered that already, but if you're
but that's a good point. It's a good thing to specifically say, because I do think it's one of the big mistakes people make in setting up their home theater.
If you're doing a 5.1 system, you need to connect to what's called the surround jack in the back of the AV processor, not rear surround or surround back. Even as Gary said earlier, even if the surround speakers are slightly behind you or even near the back.
Sometimes they actually call it side surround on some brands.
Right. We like to call it side and rear just to differentiate, but it does say on most AV processors surround and surround back. So if 5.1, connect to surround, even if it's physically behind you. If it's 7.1, then you can connect to surround back, and those go in the
in rear. Addition to surround. So the blunder, because Nick called this show the blunder show, so we have to say what the blunder would be. The blunder would be that you use surround back and not surround or surround side.
Correct.
That would be a major mistake, because you wouldn't be getting all the surround information. Always use that one that's called surround first. Then if you add that 6 and 7 speaker, that's when you would use surround back.
Yeah, it's a common mistake, actually.
I see it all. We used to see it with people. I don't want to name names, but nobody on this call, but people that work at SVS would make this mistake, which I would always have to correct at trade shows and things like that. So it's an easy mistake to make. And
along those same lines, Larry, I mean, what about there's some receivers will have a height surround, but then also a Dolby Atmos. And so if you're choosing and you're setting up your 5.1.2, what are you supposed to know there?
It's knowing which one's which in regards to, is one a surround height speaker, or is one a front height, or top height, there's all these different things, and I don't want to take a lot of time there, but it's really going to come down to placement and what you're using. So this room where you saw my elevations up here, those are top middle. And I've got a receiver in here that has the ability to do top middle. Not every brand can do that. So I've run into like a lot of Yamahas that only do front or rear, don't do middle. So making sure that you're going to get a receiver that's going to actually process where you're going to be putting those speakers too.
So I think,
go for it.
The bottom line is, if you have any questions or if you're not sure, reach out to us. We'll tell you exactly which channel to hook up and to get
that's a great point. I mean, we're just I feel like I'm being too pitchy on this show, but we have the best, and they all work. They all report up to Ed. We have the best. So there's a commenter saying that Ed and I are fighting right now, which is not true. But
Take the gloves off.
Oh, you'd know
these guys all report up to Ed, and our mantra is, even if you don't have any SVS products, you can call us up and ask us any questions you want about setting up your home theater, and that's what we do. And these guys are just as passionately dedicated to this great hobby that we all have as the four of us are on this. Is this a Zoom? I guess it's a sort of a Zoom, right?
It's a stream.
So
we are an audio manufacturer, as everyone knows, but our sound experts' knowledge goes beyond that. So I think there's a couple of blunders here that actually refer to displays and choosing your best TV for your system that actually are worth bringing up. And Ed, what is the general advice when it comes to choosing the size screen for your room? What do you generally tell people, or what have you come across in terms of getting the perfect size based on, where your listening point is and all of that?
Well, obviously everybody's going to be choosing 4K if it's a new display. And the problem I see most often is someone will choose a display that's simply too large for the viewing distance. And, everybody seems to think bigger is better. But in the end, if your head is on a swivel and you're moving back and forth to take in everything on the screen, it's like sitting in the front row of an IMAX theater. It's just not a fun experience. So you want that display, and there are guidelines out there, but you want the display to be such that you can view the whole thing without moving your head back and forth and not really being overwhelmed by it. It's not so much the pixels and the density of the 4K image. It's can you view it comfortably without moving your head around?
I am going to argue with you on this one, Ed. So the person who commented that we're fighting, now they're going to be right. I actually somewhat disagree with that. I'm going to say that just like when we talk about immersive sound, the sound basically envelops you and draws you into it, and we're all about sound at SVS. I actually believe an immersive video experience means one that, as much as possible, fully occupies your field of vision. So I agree that if you don't want to be 5 feet away from a 70-inch monitor, I 100% agree with you there.
Yeah, and that's what
yeah, listen, we can also, I think these folks just want to hear people's insights and make their own decisions. So I think it's fine if we end up not being 100% aligned. But I love having a massive big screen. The one caveat to it is I'm not a fan of having the screen be so big that the speakers then have to be spread out so wide that you start losing that sense of a cohesive experience. The speakers are too far away, too far apart. They don't create a believable soundstage. Personally, what I've found is that the ideal screen size is about 65 inches for most of the kind of viewing that you'll do in a regular room-based home theater, like your basement or den. 65 is probably the upper end of it. But when you're doing a dedicated home theater room, then the sky's the limit. Whatever you can fit.
So along those lines, go ahead, Larry.
I was gonna say, with 4K sets, you can go a little bit bigger than you typically would with a 1080p. I'm a plasma.
That's true.
I still have 3 plasmas in my house that are all 12, 13 years old because I'm picky on my TV. But you don't want to go too large, like Ed was saying, because if you're sitting to where you have to turn your head to view something, then you're obviously too close to that screen.
Yep.
But 65s tend to be the go-to screen size, along with 55s. Just fit what goes in the room.
Screen, I sit about 10 or 11 feet from the screen. It's only like 83 inches or something like that. It's a Stewart. I know people putting in 120 inches at that distance. It's just too big.
So along those lines, it's not just
that. By the way, what you just said, I totally agree with. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're talking about the difference between 80 inches and 120 inches, then that's a choice where that would mean that your viewing distance would probably need to be. Well, the old formula was 2-to-1, if I recall. I'm trying to remember. Back in the day, I actually was involved with helping customers get the right TV when I ran a retail chain. I'm thinking was it 2-to-1, Larry, that we used to say? In other words, a 70. I'm trying to remember the formula. It was a 60-inch screen. You want to be 10 feet away. So meaning 60 inches times 2, 120 inches divided by, obviously 12 inches is in a foot. That gives you a 10-foot viewing distance. So 2 to 1 to me is the safe formula to use as far as how far away you sit from the TV and how large it is.
And I see a buddy of mine calling me out here on going to get a new TV. Oh, I'm close.
I kind of agree with that, your buddy.
Well,
the issue, I've got 3 boys and 5 dogs. I can't put a big old OLED downstairs where they'll smash into it, and then I would just be furious that they'd break it. So my big 58-inch plasma that's downstairs, it's glass.
All right, you're right. Save the money and get some counseling, Larry.
Yes, I'll get more grills.
Buy a fence around it. There you go. But also, it's not just the size of the TV. It's also the placement of it. And I know sometimes we have fireplaces and we want that perfect TV right over the fireplace. But if you're talking about the ideal place to either mount a TV or place it on a piece of furniture, what is that in relation to eye level? And Ed, this one's for you. When you're setting up a TV, where should it be in terms of relation to the wall and where you're sitting?
Well, if you notice when you go to the movie theater, what are you doing? You're reclining, right? So you don't want to sit straight up in your chair and look straight forward and say, I want the screen to go here. You also don't want to lean way back and put the screen up near the ceiling. So what I recommend is you sit in your home theater chair, recline at the level that you're comfortable with, the angle you're comfortable with, that you would like viewing for a couple hours, and then project your line of sight and put the middle of the screen or maybe the top 1/3 of the screen there.
Very good. I am going to do a giveaway, and then we're going to get back to some more audio-related topics. So for our next giveaway, it's our one subwoofer giveaway of the evening. This is a PB1000 subwoofer, as Larry so nicely mentioned. It's a 10-inch driver, ported design here, great low-frequency effects down below 20 hertz, where you can only feel it. And our winner is coming from Facebook, and his name is Mr. Nathan Knight. Congratulations, Nathan Knight. Vince will be reaching out to you. We're going to get you a new subwoofer. Congratulations, my man. So let's get back to the world of audio. And this next one, I think, is probably like a blunder that is as basic as you can make, but with really dramatic effects in terms of what it does. And Larry, I'm going to throw this one to you, and that is switching the polarity of your speakers when wiring them. What happens when you do that, and what does that exactly mean?
Man, it can be all over the map. So switching to polarity is simply switching your speaker wire, guys. A lot of people do that, get something backwards. So maybe at one end, you got positive and negative. At the other end, it's flipped. So your black and red are switched.
Maybe explain the black and red piece of it so everybody understands.
So, well, one side will be positive, and one side will be negative.
What color is that?
Well, Larry's colorblind, remember? So.
Yeah, so positive is...
Positive's red.
Red, yeah.
I'll lead the witness.
Black. Yeah, I just had to remember. I got to get back there. But what we'll see happen from that, I don't have the issue with it, so I got to remember it, is I used to do this back in the day, and when you get kind of loud, you get some power coming back to your receiver, and it would go into overload or shutdown, or things go out of phase. There's a lot of things that can kind of come from that.
Mostly, the danger is to be out of phase, and what it means, what Larry's saying is, if you don't go red to red and black to black, you by the way, as long as you consistently make the mistake, you're fine, but nobody ever does. So it's better you choose one side of the speaker wire, red to red, the other end to the speaker, from the receiver to the speaker, red to red and black to black on all 5, 7, 9, 11 of the speakers. Because if you mess up even one, it's going to throw off what's called the image of the system. It means that one driver is moving in one kind of phase and the other driver is moving in another kind of phase. And so they're sort of arguing with each other, and the image suffers because of that.
It's painfully obvious, and if you're listening to stereo, if one of them's out of phase with the other one, the sound stage and the imaging just collapses.
Right, that's right. And by the way, that's also true, although for a different reason, with hooking up things like analog input devices, like if you use a CD player or a record player, even though, or a streaming device, even though you can go the right output to the left speaker and the left output to the right speaker, and it would be you wouldn't have out of phase. You can really ruin the image because the producer intended what was on the left side to be left of you and what's on the right side to be right of you. So it's worth it when setting up your system to really be careful and consistent with those kinds of choices. And if you think what we're saying is painfully obvious, I think in literally every trade show, when I walk around and check the different systems, there's at least one mistake. And our guys are trained professionals, but they made the mistake. They just didn't look carefully at what they did.
Sometimes when you run an auto setup, it will spot that error for you, Nick, and it'll say, check left channel or check center. There could be a wiring or a polarity or a phase problem, and you can double check at the electronics and at the speaker side.
So I did see a comment about bi-wiring. Ed, is there anything people should know when bi-wiring in terms of the polarity?
The polarity is the same. It's still red positive, black negative. Bi-wiring just separates the two sections of the crossover network and allows
the speaker
polarity, but there's no difference in polarity.
So there you go. That's probably the most common, I would think, or a very common issue that people make. And so I next wanted to transition into some placement miscues that I think people make, and specifically, this one, I guess it's sort of up for interpretation, but a lot of people choose their speaker placement based on convenience. And if you're really looking for the best possible sound, what are some general rules that you can follow in terms of speaker placement that will get you the best possible audio experience, and avoid some of those convenience issues that you have? And Ed, I'll kick this one to you first.
Well, if we're talking surround sound, you want sort of the equidistant triangle, the front, left, and right, maybe 7, 8, 9 feet apart at the most. Like Gary said earlier, if they're too far apart, your sound stage can collapse. Obviously, the center channel should be below the video display, and the side surround speakers should either be directly to the sides or slightly behind the listening position. If you're doing a height effect system, the surround channel should be a little bit above head level, or even with head level when you're seated. And those Dolby Digital or Dolby Labs has really good guidance on their website that everybody can go to, and they can look up their exact system, and it will show them best practices for where to place all the bed layer channels and also the height effects channels.
And I had a good one for center channels, and this was actually something Gary taught me very early on, because of setting up trade show systems. And that's you always have to have the center channel flush. If it's on a piece of furniture, you don't want it set back like against the wall. You want it flush against the front of the furniture. And why is that, Gary?
Well, a speaker has something called dispersion characteristics. Basically, the less stuff interfering between the speaker and your ears, the more direct and clear the sound will be. If the center channel, most people put their center channel on a shelf or in some kind of a unit where the TV is, because that's just how it's designed, and that's totally fine. The only thing I would say is pull it out as far to the edge of the unit towards you as you can. This is a small thing that can make a massive difference in how good your home theater sounds.
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking in a can.
Right.
It's pulled way back. You get a bunch of what they call edge diffraction, and it really muffles up the sound. So all the center channels in my house are like that, pulled right up to the edge, so there's nothing to bounce off.
Lobing, I think, is the effect that's called when it sort of cuts off the signal, so it's not getting that full dispersion characteristic. And I'll add a caveat onto that. One mistake that I made in an early part of my life setting up a home theater was I took our Prime satellite, which we were using as part of a 5.1, using it as a center channel, and I put it on its side as opposed to having it vertical because it was the center channel. So I thought, hey, it's shaped more like a center channel. No. Larry, why don't we put our Prime satellites on their side?
Well, there's quite a few different reasons for it, but it's designed much like the middle of our center channel with the tweeter above the woofer. And so that you do get the correct time correct coming to you, so you get the frequency matching properly, and it's the way it's designed.
Well, it's always important. I think that is a basic question that I think you could actually broaden it out. Basically, the question would be, is there any reason why I shouldn't lay my speaker on its side? It could be a bookshelf speaker, could be anything. Here's the reason why you don't want to do that. The speaker is oriented in a certain way with the tweeter above the mid-range and above the woofers. Even a center channel, if you look, a correctly designed center channel, like, I mean, I'm not going to, again, we're not trying to pitch any particular brand like the one we happen to work for. Our center channel will be with the tweeter and then a mid-range directly below the tweeter and then the two woofers on either side. When you do it that way, you have dispersion characteristics that favor the listener. In other words, no matter where you're sitting in the room, you're very likely to hear the speaker sound as close to its best as possible. If you put it on its side, then only a person in a very narrow tunnel, and that's what you're talking about, Nick, a very narrow tunnel in front of the speaker is going to hear the correct frequency response. Everyone else in the room is going to hear some kind of messed up version of that. So that's why speakers need to be straight up and down according to their design. But that's also why we're not fans of the low quality. This is why we don't make a center channel like this. We don't make a center channel that has a single tweeter in the middle. You've seen these, single tweeter in the middle and then two kind of mid-bass drivers on either side of it. Looks good, fits under the TV really easily. The only problem is it's very prone to lobing, meaning you really need to be directly in front of it to hear it correctly. As soon as you go off to the side, it sounds wrong. And of course, home theater is something meant to be enjoyed by more than one person sitting directly in front of the center channel. It's for anyone in the room.
So one more topic as far as speaker placement goes.
I think you better do one more giveaway.
Oh, I think you're right. We have the big giveaway.
We got 2 more giveaways.
My bad. All right. Well, our next giveaway is going to be a pair of our Prime bookshelf speakers, which I think just got some mention there as we were talking about setting them on their sides or not setting them on their sides. And our winner of a pair of Prime bookshelf speakers is coming from Facebook, Jeff Kunkel. Jeff Kunkel, congratulations. Vince will be dropping you a line here, and we'll get you all taken care of. So I did have one more thing I wanted to hit on as far as speaker placement goes. And Ed, I saw somebody else saying you're falling asleep here, so I'm going to energize you with this question. I know you're not.
My eyes are always
a camera angle, guys.
I've never seen you more energized than you are right now. But that's basically the alignment of the tweeters. And I think this is mostly referring to the front stage, but I think in all the channels, what should you know about tweeter alignment as far as setting up a multi-channel surround sound system?
You mean where the tweeter should go relative to head level? I like
head level, but then also each other.
I like to have the tweeters basically all the same level, especially on the front stage. And that helps if the dialogue shifts from the left channel to the middle to the right. If the center channel's down by the floor, which I have seen many times, or way up by the ceiling, you're actually going to get that dialogue to shift in height as it moves across the front stage. So I like the tweeters at head level when seated, and if possible, all at the same level. If they're not exactly at the same level, it's okay if they're, maybe a foot apart or whatever. But you don't want 4 or 5 feet between the center channel tweeter and the front left and right channels.
Yeah.
Although we can, this is another one where I would, if you're torn, call Ed or his team, because they're, in my experience, and I've been in loads of homes and home theaters and different roles that I've had in our industry, you rarely see a perfect room. And so there are always trade-off, or almost always trade-offs. And we can work with you to help you make the right choices on the trade-offs. So, I mean, the truth is, surround sound technologies are somewhat forgiving of imperfect placement as long as you kind of know the rules of the road. And Ed's gang is really good at helping people understand that. So I would definitely recommend reaching out to them when you don't know exactly what you want to do with placement.
Just don't put your center channel on the floor.
Boy, do I agree with that.
And if you have to, or if you choose to, get some of those like door wedges and at least angle it up. So you're at least firing it into that general, where your ears are direction. Otherwise,
pictures of it from.
There's a comment, Nick. A person said, "Well, how come you guys don't bring diagrams and photos to these?" And that's a great idea, and we certainly will look at that. But I just wanted to tell that person and anyone who's like not picturing this in your head, We have all this kind of information on our site, and you're more than welcome to sort of go to, what is it in that section we've just recently renamed, Nick?
Yep, it's all in our blog video section. We have a lot of great resources about
/video. We just renamed it on our site. Lots of information, diagrams, things like that, so you can understand, visualize what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're still upping the production value here of the virtual audiophile happy hour, but we'll get to a point where I'll be able to snap my fingers and we'll have the perfect graph. But I would agree with Gary. There's a wealth of information you can pull from our site. So we have a whole nother segment that I don't know that we're going to get to, but I might want to pull one topic from that new segment, which is system optimization. We were sort of talking a little bit more about setup. Now, I think once you've got your system set up, there's some tips that you can do. And Gary, I think this one's hilarious because you brought it up as something that you've seen at audio shows from other brands and people who really should not be doing this. And that's when they're doing room correction. What are they doing with the mic instead of placing it in that main seating
you're right.
position?
This one, we can get through this one quickly. I've seen this so many times, and I'm like dumbfounded that people don't know how they're messing themselves up. So what Nick is talking about is every Dolby surround sound receiver comes with some form of auto room setup, and you get a microphone, and you kind of usually in the initial setup, it kind of walks you through a sort of a wizard of setting up your system. And all well and good. It's pretty easy. The microphone has a little tripod that it comes with. Use the tripod. I've seen over and over again people standing in the room holding the microphone and doing the room setup, and of course your body and your fingers are making all kinds of crazy resonant noises on that microphone. Don't do that. The thing to do is to put the microphone, you do as many places as you have patience for, at least 4 places in the theater. And you know, if you don't have a great tripod, then use sticky tape at the top of the sofa near where your ears would be. And then get the heck out of the way. Make sure you're not in between the microphone and any of the speakers in the theater, and let the auto setup do its job. Ed, would you agree with that? Larry's also the expert in this.
Head level when seated, and also don't put it below the headrest so it can't see, you know, like the rear surrounds, for example. I like to have it a little bit higher.
That's a very important point.
Open air all around.
Yep, yeah. It's got to have a good look at the room, so to speak. And I also like keeping the microphone within what they call the primary listening bubble, which is the main listening position and maybe the 2 seats next to it. Don't put the mic way in the back corner of the room just because, you know, Aunt Tilly's going to be there once in a blue moon. It'll throw off the sound balance and equalization. So keep it in the primary listening positions, and you'll get the best results.
That's a great point. I completely agree with that too.
So before we get to our last giveaway, I did want to make a little announcement about our next broadcast, which will be February 25th.
So 3 weeks from today, Nick?
Now. And I'm not going to say anything about it, but Gary, do you want to say anything about what might or may not transpire on February 25th?
Yeah, I'm going to say it. We have worked really hard to keep our company going forward and creating new products. But it's not perfect because during COVID and lockdown and keeping everyone on our team safe, we haven't always been able to be in the same physical space together. And it has delayed product launches, new product introductions. But guess what, guys? We got multiple new product introductions coming. The first one is going to be unveiled for the first time 3 weeks from today in our February 25th show. I'm not going to say what the product category is, but it's a big one. It's important. And then we have other ones coming really for the next 6 months. And I'm beside myself with excitement. So I know you guys have waited. Some of these product launches we were hoping for to have in advance of the holiday season, but because of COVID, we didn't. And of course, you know about SVS. We always make sure we got it right before we ever release anything. So we worked with perfectionism, and I'm excited. The first one will be announced at the show February 25th, 3 weeks from today.
We do this live, so there is a chance things might shift a couple days or a week or so, but we are committed to doing the product launch. You will hear about it here first live, and I think that's going to be super exciting, something new that we haven't done before. And with that, we are ready to get to our final surprise giveaway. Larry, can you give me a little sizzle for our what we're about to give away here, and then I will announce the grand winner?
Do you remember?
Yeah, this is a killer prize, man. Somebody is going to win a pair of our Prime Pinnacle Tower speakers,
which won the best speaker in the world. Best speaker in the world by ISA. How many audio magazines all around the world?
61.
61 audio magazines around the world voted it best speaker of 2020.
Yeah, and then partnered with that to power it is going to be a Prime Wireless 300-watt 2-channel sound bass amplifier. So it is a rocking
system. It's a complete system.
Yeah, it's the same thing we do.
Did you say 300 watts or 200 watts?
Did I not see a system just like that on Let's Make a Deal, Nick?
150x2. Yeah, I know my
Not
spec.
yet, Gary. Not yet. We'll see it tomorrow, but we will share that link out too. So there you go. A phenomenal modern audiophile 2-channel system here. We're about to give away a little drum roll, 7 o'clock. Our winner is coming from YouTube, and it is Mr. Justin Parker. Justin Parker, congratulations, my friend. That is a killer system you're going to be bringing home there. And all those great tips that we just shared, you can apply with your new stereo system and make it sound as good as possible. So remember, Thursday, February 25th, product launch. We're going to be having some fun then. We may have multiple special guests, mostly from the SVS family, but we're going to make it a big deal. We're going to have a lot of fun. There'll be giveaways. There'll be other things to do as well. Gary, any closing thoughts you want to offer before we say goodnight?
All I'm going to say is I'm so glad we were back together with our SVS community. We've been away too long, and it's been great. Watching the comments, you guys are putting a smile on my face, although several of you were heckling me very mercilessly.
Which we love. We love the heckling.
I'm
love
totally kidding.
All of
That's
that.
my burner.
But thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Phenomenal comments,
everybody.
as always. We'll get to your questions more on the next broadcast, and look forward to it then.